Pacers Celtics coming in hot somehow. The first time these two teams have battled this year, and the first battle since the Malcolm Brogdon, Aaron Nesmith, Daniel Tice trade extravaganza. Why not talk with Locked On Celtics host John Karalis? Get the scoop from the team with the most wins in the NBA as they host the Pacers tonight. All coming today on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers as always. My name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and SI. And today, it's a very special day because the Pacers play the Celtics, which means one of my favorite people in the Locked On Podcast Network is here to talk about the mighty, possibly title favorite Boston Celtics, who I have little feel for right now. And I'll say why in a few seconds. But lots to get to today, including Pacers Celtics tonight and a fun one, revisiting the Brogdon trade a couple months into the season because he's one of the favorites for sixth man of the year. Aaron Nesmith currently playing the best ball of his career. Daniel Tice exists and has a locker in the Pacers locker room. So lots to talk about as we can revisit that trade today. John Karalis from Locked On Celtics is here. John, the Celtics have the most wins in the NBA. They've also lost 4 of their last 5. That's kind of confusing. Give me the scoop from Boston. What's going on?
They forgot how to shoot. Is basically the number one reason. Their offense was the best in the NBA by a country mile, not just a mile, a country mile. And that was fueled by 42% shooting overall. And guys were shooting way above their heads. Malcolm Brogdon, you guys know, he still leads the team in shooting, but he was shooting somewhere around 49%. Which is insane for anybody. It's insane for Steph Curry to shoot 49%. But Al Horford was shooting in the high 40s, mid 40s. Derek White was shooting in the mid to high 40s. And those guys have kind of cratered recently. Brogdon is still shooting 39% over the last 8 games, but that's a 10% drop from what he had been shooting. And so the Celtics have really been missing a ton of threes, a ton of open threes, but they've also gotten away from the drive and the kick. They're taking a few more pull-up shots per game. They're taking shots, three-pointers after holding the ball for a while, dribbling the ball for a while. So it's not – the offense isn't flowing. And I can say that it's maybe because they had this long road trip. It started out at the beginning of this road trip where they faced Brooklyn and Toronto, and they went to Phoenix. It was a 6-game roadie that you never get 6 gamers. In the NBA. And by the end, they were exhausted. And then they come home and they play Orlando and they look bad against Orlando. I think this is just a bunch of correctable stuff, but it is a little bit of a concern to see them come out and get away from the type of offense that has worked over the first 22, 23 games of the season.
And yet, still first in offensive rating in the NBA.
Give themselves a little bit of a pad, so that worked out well.
That's how it works. Robert Williams is back too. I am curious if if they're working him in. Is there any kinks? Is that part of what you've seen as slowing them down, or is it just the stuff you said?
Yeah, look, there are a million things you can say that play into this. The first game back from a long road trip is always a bad one for the home team, and that's what happened against Orlando. That was also the first game back for Robert Williams, and he's coming off the bench. So in the first, he's been doing like 4-minute stints. So that is throwing the team off a little bit because especially that first 4-minute stint, there was a lot of shrugging and where do I go and confusion. Look very preseason-ish. So there's going to be a little bit of a bump in the road there. I think most of us have been expecting a little choppiness in trying to get Rob back into the flow of things. And okay, yeah, so that's been part of it. And then the last game, they didn't have Jason Tatum. So that throws things off when everybody's struggling. You can look to an MVP candidate to maybe carry you through. They lost by 3 to Orlando. Maybe they would have won that game if Tatum was there. And then Rob, again, another 17-minute stint. So there are a lot of little things here that I think maybe in February, March, April, you'd say, okay, they got to get past those things. But early on, hey, this is the first bit of a struggle. Rob, I think, has shown that his help side defense he's still got great instincts for that. He still comes out of nowhere for these big monster block shots where, guy you see the frame of a guy going in for a nice, easy left-handed layup, and all of a sudden this Peregrine Falcon just comes flying through to swipe. You're like, what was that blur? You're like, oh, it was Robert Williams coming in to block a shot. So he still has that, but there is still some working his way into Joe Mazzulla's offense. And even though a lot of the defensive principles are the same, the offense has some new wrinkles, and playing with Malcolm Brogdon, got to get used to that as well. And he's going to be on the floor a lot with Malcolm. So they have to get a rhythm, even though Rob has been playing with these other teammates forever. There are definitely wrinkles there that he has to navigate.
Rob Williams and I got beef because his return means Indiana University legend Noah Vonleh will no longer get any minutes for the Celtics.
Can I tell you something? It wasn't Rob's fault. It wasn't Rob's fault that he wasn't getting minutes.
Blake took his minutes first, right?
Those minutes went away very quickly. It was Luke Cornett who took his minutes, and then Blake got his minutes. Noah had like a shot at the beginning, but
He started a game.
There's one guarantee in life when Noah Vonleh starts a game. It's that he will commit an offensive foul setting a screen within 2 minutes. It's death, taxes, and an offensive foul on a screen set by Noah Vonleh.
Brad Stevens has my blessing for exec of the year because he had Romeo, he had Juwan Morgan, and now he's got Vonleh. He loves these IU guys who may not amount to much in the NBA, but he always keeps them around.
Guys. Keeps it in the family.
That's right. My eyes do not deceive me. I've caught a lot of Celtics this year, but Jason Tatum is averaging over 30 points, over 8 rebounds, and over 4 assists. I mean, he's an MVP candidate, right? Like, how good do the stats, are they accurate? Like, has he been that awesome this year? Should he be in the MVP conversation?
Yeah, I think he has gone as the team has gone as he's gone. Early on, especially, he was awesome. I mean, just coming out, attacking, getting to the front of the rim, really dominating. I think that's tailed off a little bit over the course of the past few weeks. Obviously, he missed this last game, but the road trip, you started to see him, I think, get back to some old habits. But he had a big performance against the Lakers. He had a clutch shot to send the game into overtime. And so he's, I think, starting at the Golden State game, he kind of has had a little bit of a rough go, and he had a couple of games below 20. But for most of the rest of the season, he's been dominant. And the beauty of Tatum's dominance has been it came without the three-point shot. Even in the middle of the Celtics being 40-some-odd% three-point shooters, it was Tatum and Brown who were shooting below league average. So that was always weird. So Tatum, he has built this MVP candidacy by getting to the rim and getting to the free throw line and playing that type of dominant basketball, dictating where he wants to go, how he wants to get there, making passes off of his drives, setting up his teammates. And like I said, recently he's been trying to do, I think, a little bit too much, getting caught too deep, turning the ball over a little bit more. But in general, he's been pretty dominant. And I don't know, I think Giannis is probably going to jump ahead of him now in the MVP ladder, but he's a legitimate candidate. If he can get back to what he had been doing a few weeks ago, then it'll be a neck and neck race.
Yeah, I think he's got to be in the mix, and it could come down to who wins the East, right? Like, I think those two. I agree with you that Giannis probably has it right now. Yeah, it's going to be close between those guys. Give me the Cliff Notes version of this final question for me. What type of player or scheme have the Celtics struggled against, and do the Pacers have that on their team?
They've struggled with size, so the Pacers do have some of that in Miles Turner. They're a shot blocker at the rim. The Celtics have been a little bit more deterred than everybody's deterred by a shot blocker. The Celtics tend to shy away maybe a little bit more, and they also have problems with switching defenses because they like to target the mismatches. So if you switch and somebody gets an Aaron Nesmith on him. Jason Tatum says,
Hey.
go after Aaron Nesmith. I'm going to show my old teammates something. They do get caught up in that game a little bit, and that takes away from their ball movement. So anything that draws the Celtics, they do like to take the bait when it comes to hunting isolation and mismatches.
Yeah, by nature of the Pacers having a bunch of wings who are very short, they do switch a lot because they have a lot of like size. So perhaps they have some ways they can be good against the Celtics. Turner has done well against them historically. But let's talk about some Pacers, John, and how they can do well against the Celtics potentially, because they have been one of the surprise teams this year. Before we transition to that, though, let me talk to you guys about BetterHelp. Sometimes in life, for me, especially right after college, I wish life came with a user manual. It's tricky. You don't know what to do. You don't know who to turn to. But unfortunately, life doesn't come with a user manual. So when it's not working for you, it's normal to feel stuck. Navigating any of life's challenges can make you feel unsure, whether it's a career change, a new relationship, or becoming a parent. Therapists are trained to help you figure out the cause of challenging emotions and learn productive coping skills, which makes therapy the closest thing to a guided tour of the complex engine called you. BetterHelp has connected over 3 million people with licensed therapists. It's convenient and accessible anywhere, 100% online, and therapy can help you with things like coping skills, self-empowerment, dealing with trauma, lots of ways it can benefit you. And as the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists, available 100% online. Plus, it's affordable. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to match you with a therapist. If things aren't clicking, you can easily switch to a new therapist anytime. Could not be simpler. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks, everybody, for making Locked On Celtics or Locked On Pacers your first listen today and every single day. Hey, for your second listen, go check out Locked On Suns, because as we speak, John, they have a new owner. Brendan Clean's going to break that down. And spoiler alert, the new owner is neither me or John. Unfortunately, neither of us could pony up
take my bid.
The several billion-dollar bid to buy the Suns. We did not. We could not pull it off. Brendan Clean at Locked On Suns is your guy for all that. And given what's happened with the Suns, that will be fascinating. Mid-season ownership change will be really interesting to see how, if any way, that changes the title hopeful Suns. John, Pacers are much better than everybody thought this year.
Yeah,
what are you intrigued about by this team?
Tell me about the rookies. Tell me about the guys because I think the Pacers, just from the outside, one of the big reasons why that they're playing so much better is they're getting incredible production from these young guys. So let's I think that's the most important place to start for the Pacers.
Yeah, Andrew Nembhard, if you told me he was a 6-year vet, I'd believe you. Like the way he plays defense with great footwork and verticality and adaptability, and he can guard 3 or even 4 positions if the other team goes small, is so impressive, right? Like you always expect, like, even the best rookies are going to struggle on defense to some extent, just because of the speed of the game, the spacing, the physicality, all this stuff they have to learn. And Nembhard, like, notorious for his huge game already, slowing down Steph Curry. He held him to 12 points. He also had 31 himself, like one of the most impressive games from a rookie this season. And so the Pacers are like, yeah, we can play you at the 3, we can play you at the 2, you can be our backup 1. I mean, the fact that he could do so many things for them, and they got him in the second round, has been one of the reasons they've been surprising, right? You never expect your 31st overall pick, who, like, he was out of the rotation for their first couple of games, to be a net positive already on the floor so often early in the season. And I can't believe I went with Nembhard before Mathurin, because Mathurin is obviously the guy, in the Rookie of the Year mix. Banchero, as Celtics fans know very well from recent games, is probably the leader at this time. But, games played being a factor, Mathurin has been unbelievably good this year, and his offense is just ridiculous for a rookie, right? The number of times and the ways he's able to get to the foul line is really impressive. His shot off the dribble has tapered a little bit, but is still really good from beyond the arc, right? So it's hard to find, like, the perfect way to face guard him. And now that teams have a scouting report on him, right, they're figuring out that if they just step up on him closer to the basket, he can't get to the rim as much. So his new thing he's been adding in is, like, a floater every game or a Euro step or something like that. And that's where I'm the most impressed by him, is his ability to adapt to coverages both between games and within games. So the fact that the Pacers have 2 rookies who can contribute, and sometimes, most of the time, honestly, in a positive way for them, has been a big part of the reason that they aren't, whatever they would be, 10-21, instead are 15-16 and in the play-in mix in the East right now.
Yeah, it's impressive to have them kind of hovering around 500. Let me ask you this: are you happy that they're hanging around this long, or is there some sort of drop off that you expect? Do you think that at some point the Pacers are going to come back down to earth? What's keeping them this? I mean, I just mentioned the rookies, but if you had to point to one thing, what is keeping them kind of afloat right now? What's powering them?
Yeah, they had a kind of easy November schedule, but that said, the thing that really boosted them is they started defending a lot better. Their defense was awful to start the year. They were 1-4 and then 2-6, and it looked like that would be a weakness for them with a bunch of rookies and a bunch of non-defending guards. And they figured out how to defend a lot better as the season progressed, as their guys played together more. And that was really helpful for them. I don't know where they are exactly in defensive rating right now, but they took advantage of teams that they should beat, and their defensive improvement was a big part of why their offense actually dropped off a little bit. So that's a big part of why I think they're better than a lot of people thought. And the other one is that Tyrese Halliburton took, not everybody expected him to take some sort of leap when they traded Brogdon to Boston, right? He's going to have the ball all the time. He's the offensive engine now, but to go from, promising young player to like, oh, wow, like this guy's an all-star now, like in year 3, no questions. He leads the league in assists by almost 2 per game, and he can hit threes off the dribble, get into the lane. He is the engine on offense. Like, to have oh, wow, we have to adjust our entire defense to slow this guy down level of offensive player has also been a reason they have done this. And it's so funny. It's not every game anymore, but there was a time in late November where the second Halliburton checked out, defenses would be like, time for zone. They can't do anything now, right? Because the Pacers just couldn't score as much without him on the floor. That said, though, I note the schedule thing because I don't think they'll hold, that they haven't won consecutive games since November 20th, 19th-ish. Like, it's been a while where they've won 1, lost 1, won 1, lost 2. That's why they're under 500 now. So I think they have kind of hit reality a bit, right? Teams have figured out what they're good at, how to slow them down a bit. They are good at adjusting and getting over these humps, but I don't think they'll get back to being an over 500 team. I think they'll hover in the 500 range and win somewhere between 33 to 37, maybe a little less than that. So reality, if you want to call it that, has hit for them, but their reality is still better than I think people thought before the year because Halliburton and the rookies are so good right now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Halliburton is. I mean, I thought that was such a great pickup for the Pacers and a foundational piece for them. 2 more things. We'll end on the Aaron Nesmith conversation, but first, Miles Turner is playing well, and he and Buddy Hield seem to be like the combination, especially when it comes to like the Lakers talk and all of that stuff. Has that impacted? It doesn't seem like that's impacted them at all.
Not in the slightest. This is the best Miles has ever played, and you could be the contract year cynic if you want, which I get that. I get why people do that. And maybe that is a part of it. Maybe it's not. But he's never played with a point guard who's this good at passing. And now that he is the only center, in fact, they moved Jalen Smith to the second unit recently. Like, he is cutting way more than he ever has. He is rolling after screens more than he ever has. In fact, he basically never rolled before, right? When Sabonis was on the team, It was screen, get behind the 3-point line, get out of the way, right? Now he's rolling to the basket, making plays in the paint and getting more touches per game. And throughout his career, he's always said things like, I'm scratching the surface of my potential. I think I can do more. But he never got the chance. Everyone just kind of rolled their eyes and was like, if you could, you would. But now he has the chances, and he is doing it, right? He's proving himself right, which sometimes for a 26-year-old is unusual, right? A lot of guys think that, and they don't show it. But he is doing a lot more offensively and being asked to do more and answering the call, which is impressive at his age. Like, he's in his 8th year in the NBA, which is insane to think about. That this is Miles Turner's 8th year in the league. He's been really good, and for him, more so than Buddy, he is in a contract here. Like, the Pacers he still will be in trade talks no matter how good he plays, just because of that. Like, the Pacers can't lose him for nothing. I don't know what they'll end up doing, but he's been great. Buddy Hield's been good. Tries a little harder here than he did with the Kings. I don't think that's a secret. Better on the glass, puts the ball on the floor, makes some plays in the paint, and passing the ball. That's been the biggest thing he's done better than he did in Sacramento. And maybe one of his biggest assets to the Pacers, him and Tyrese Halliburton are close friends, right? That is, of course, very important to a team entering a new era, saga, whatever you want to call it. And the fact that he's one of the best shooters in the league is, of course, very helpful for a team that has a very dynamic and potent offense. Yeah, they've both been really good, and I think will both be mentioned in trade chatter for a while just because of where the Pacers are and what they're good at and things like that. But yeah, the part of the Pacers surge too is their vets have been just as good, if not better, than they've ever been before.
Well, that all sounds like the Pacers are going to be a tough team, but I know the obvious key to them is Aaron Nesmith. That's the guy. You want to take a break, and we'll just talk about Aaron Nesmith in terms of the trade, the Malcolm Brogdon trade.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense to me. Before we make that pivot, though, let me tell everybody about BetOnline.net, the number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. You can get the latest odds and trends for every professional amateur league out there on BetOnline, from pro football to college bowl season to basketball. They had the World Cup on there. It just ended, but they've got it all at BetOnline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, well, guess what? They've got a ton of those all over at BetOnline. It's the fastest and easiest way to get your sports betting info. They've got their lines up for the NFL this week already. Thursday night, Jets-Jags, which is somehow an important game for playoff positioning. Even spread. That'll be a fun one. Ravens-Falcons, for example. Ravens favored by 7.5. All those lines and more at betonline.net. Head over to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more, because BetOnline is where the game starts. Everybody, thank you as always for making Locked On Pacers and Locked On Celtics your first listen every single day. For your second listen, check out Locked On Sports today. Go behind the scenes and beyond the scoreboard with the local experts here at the Locked On Podcast Network to get the best angles on the biggest stories in sports with Peter Burkowski. Available on Audacity, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. Yes, John, like you said before the break, these two teams made a huge trade in July. Huge being that one of the 6 men of the year favorites is on the Celtics, and Malcolm Brogdon, who's been fantastic. The Pacers went younger. They got a pick. They got Aaron Nesmith. Daniel Tice is a person in the NBA right now. I feel bad saying that, but he has not played for them yet. Big trade, and it's kind of worked out for both teams because, like you alluded to, Aaron Nesmith's been pretty good so far for the Pacers, actually.
Well, I mean, look, obviously the Malcolm Brogdon trade is one of the things that's going to keep. I heard you on Locked On NBA talking about Executive of the Year. Surprised you guys didn't mention Brad Stevens at all.
I did a little bit.
You did a tiny bit, but yeah, getting Malcolm Brogdon was at that point at the beginning of July was, oh my God, this is the greatest move. I can't believe that they actually did this, and they did it for a bunch of spare parts. And I thought that maybe the Pacers were thinking like, we're not trying to get anybody back because we're trying to go for Wembanyama, or whatever. And so it worked out in the Celtics' favor. But hey, the Pacers are still, they've got some talent there. And I think for the Celtics, Brogdon has been a huge, huge part of what has made them so good. I mean, obviously, Tatum and Brown are the headliner. They're number 1 and number 2, or 1 and 1A. They're potentially 2 all NBA guys in both of those guys. So the second unit, and this is why the return of Robert Williams has been extra exciting. Second unit has been really, really good for the Celtics, generally speaking, because they have Brogdon. They generally start the second quarter with Brogdon and Tatum and either like Sam Hauser, Grant Williams, and Luke Cornett. We are sitting here thinking like, well, you take Luke Cornett, you put Robert Williams in there, and now you've got a second unit run by Malcolm Brogdon with Jason Tatum not having to handle the ball. I think having Brogdon to handle the second unit duties has been a massive, massive help to Tatum, because Tatum used to run that second unit and handle the ball and be the distributor. You just take that little bit of responsibility away and you allow Tatum to be more of who he is. That allows Brogdon to be more who he is when he's out there with those guys. A slasher, a driver, a kicker. I think that's just been so huge. I think there's another level of Brogdon to unlock once he and Robert Williams figure out how to play with one another. I know that Malcolm's been exciting. It's something happening in the background here at the practice facility. I don't know if you can hear that. somebody sawing something down. Maybe they're cutting down another tree or something. I don't know. But anyway,
I can't hear it, so you're all good.
Oh, good. I can hear it very loudly. So this is a great. My microphone is doing its job. So good. Brogdon has a level to unlock when he and Rob get to figure each other out, because now instead of driving and now drawing at people and figuring, trying to kick it out to he can now throw lobs to Robert Williams. And now that's just going to open things up for Brogdon down the line. So this, not only is he a candidate for 6th man of the year, you have potential for him to reach another level.
Yeah, I have a take on Brogdon with the Celtics, if you'll allow me, even though you cover the team. We heard this a lot about Jeremy Grant in Portland, where everybody talked about, I think people were calling it Goldilocks theory, where in Denver, his role was too small. He was playing well there, but his role was too small. And then Detroit, it was too big, right? And then he got to Portland, and it's just right? This is the perfect amount of Jeremy Grant on offense, and he looks great. Malcolm Brogdon in Milwaukee, not quite enough, right? Not enough.
Yeah.
Malcolm Brogdon in Indiana, probably a little too much, right? He's not a full-time starting point guard, create everything guy. Malcolm Brogdon with the Celtics, second unit point guard, still can fit in with the starters as an off-ball guy. Just right. And the usage rate has it spelled out perfectly, right? A little under 20 in Milwaukee, over 25 with the Pacers, about 23.5, 24 with Boston. That, I think, is what's making him be so effective there, is they've got it just right. They've got the perfect amount of Malcolm Brogdon, and he can be more malleable, like you said, do some other things. But I think that is what's making him so effective and why that trade is working out so well for them. Meanwhile, John, Aaron Nesmith might be the best wing defender on the Pacers this season, which is the upset of the year. If you told me that before the season, I thought he was an okay defender coming in here, but he's been really good recently, seizing a starting spot this month in the month of December. Aaron Nesmith, who just had a 23-10 game, career high in both points and rebounds in the same game. Aaron Nesmith currently averaging 11 points and 4 rebounds per game this month on 53, 46, 100 splits. The Celtics are catching Aaron Nesmith at a dangerous time on both ends of the floor. He's just in a groove, right? He just basically said that. He's found his rhythm with this team. He knows his role pretty well. He's defending well. I get that this might not last. He's been inconsistent even with Boston, but right now he's looking like a sneaky, helpful pickup for this Pacers team. And if the shot holds, which there's like not a lot of arc on it, so it's kind of inconsistent, but if the shot holds, getting a young 3-and-D wing will be helpful for the Pacers, who, look, I don't think they were – I think most people were pretty whelmed by the return from that trade around here. But if he turns out to be a long-ish term piece, I mean, that'll work out very well for the blue and gold.
Hey, I told you before this, when this trade happened, I told you there was a potential for Aaron Nesmith. I believed in the potential for Aaron Nesmith.
You did.
And I've seen, like, when he was in Boston, I've seen him flying around. Every game, there's one thing that always happened when Aaron Nesmith plays, is that I always felt like when he jumped, he was going to get incredibly hurt his way down. That's the only thing that was consistent with Nesmith here in Boston. I'm excited to see him reach another level. Opportunity is a big deal for him. Getting that shot square, I think he came out, I remember distinctly, after his draft, he said, "I'm an absolute sniper." And he was anything but in Boston, but he kind of flipped the script on himself. He just turned himself into a defender and came in, was just an energy and defense guy. So if the shot can come around to where it used to be, and he was in a bad spot with COVID and never got a summer league and all of that stuff. So he was in that rookie of guys who probably need a little longer to reach any level of potential. So I'm glad for him. I also expect him to come into Boston and freak out and try to do too much and all of that, and probably be unplayable after 5 minutes, because everybody's going to realize, like, Carlisle's going to look at him and be like, "Oh yeah, you're clearly here for a revenge game. It's not working out." Or he's going to find his shot. He's going to hit 8 3-pointers against the Celtics, and the Celtics are going to lose 3 in a row to Orlando, and Indiana, and my YouTube page is just going to be a big mushroom cloud.
Yeah, I'll be curious how both Brogdon and Nesmith handle playing against their old team. And obviously for Brogdon, it's not in Indiana yet, so nothing crazy there. But yeah, I mean, Nesmith will be fascinating. Like, he knows the tendencies of a lot of Celtics players pretty well, right? He played there for 2 years and presumably went against Brown and Tatum all the time in practices. And
Yeah,
I do like every player ever has cared a little bit about their first game back against the team. That trade,
totally.
they all say it. They all say it's just another game. I'm like, look, maybe you want to think that.
Right,
It's not. Like, it's not. It's just not.
right.
So we'll see how
Maybe we'll
both of
see.
those
Actually,
guys end
maybe
up.
we'll actually see Daniel Tice, or is he just like, did they? Nah, we're
Yeah,
not.
John, I was about to give you a prediction for this game. I bet you Daniel Tice plays 0 minutes and has 0 points, 0 rebounds, and 0 assists in this game. He's yet to play for the Pacers. He hurt his knee this summer. Like, he had a ridiculous summer, right? He made the finals and then immediately played in FIBA World Cup play and then immediately played at Eurobasket, which went till like 9 days before the season. And so
Yeah,
he had a crazy summer. His knee was sore the whole time. So he had surgery right after he got here. Hasn't played. I would be pretty surprised if he ever played for the Pacers. He was a salary machine here, which look, I see him around. Like, he's very upbeat and chatty with his teammates. He's on the bench for the games, but
he's a good dude. He's a good dude.
Nothing but positive stuff to say about him. People have, but yeah, he's not going to play. I don't think in this game. We'll see what kind of interactions he has with his prior teammates. I got nothing else today, John, unless you do.
Nope, that's it. I'm done too. Happy holidays.
I've had enough of you.
I'm done.
Everybody, yes,
done with you.
On our respective shows, we'll be breaking down this game come Thursday. Locked On Pacers and Locked On Celtics would be the way to go. Lots of fun stuff about both of these teams. Pacers surprising, Celtics maybe the best team in the NBA. You'll want all the content you can about both of those squads. Everybody have a fantastic rest of your day, and both of us will see you soon.